Man, that Dragon Gods video did way better than I was expecting it to do, so I guess you guys want more Dragon God videos. I've actually been planning to do more videos on the Dragon Gods for a while now, but now I'm more incentivized to get these out sooner than I initially planned, alongside chapter reviews, which I'm starting to do on a bi-weekly basis as I started to originally. But that aside, this is actually a topic I wanted to talk about, just like with explaining what the Dragon Gods are, and that is why I honestly think that the Dragon Gods are probably one of the best ideas Mashima has had for Fairy Tail as a whole. But before I get into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows that you want to see more. Fairy Tail Fridays are a big success, and I cannot wait to keep these up for you guys. Now with that out of the way, let's get right into this discussion. So what do I mean when I say that the Dragon Gods are probably one of Mashima's best ideas for Fairy Tail at this moment in time? Well, just introducing the idea of the Dragon Gods and making them basically the main plot point and antagonists for a whole sequel series following the events of the main story actually opened up a lot of avenues for the world of Fairy Tail to be explored, as with the very first chapter of 100 Years Quest, we essentially got a rundown on what exactly the first Wizard Guild actually was. And throughout the story, we get inklings and even flashbacks to how things were before Wizard Guilds were a thing. Now, in the main Fairy Tail story, we just automatically assumed that Wizard Guilds had been a thing for years, and they have. However, we never really thought of how they came to be, or how things were for magic users in the past. And it wasn't until the most recent arc with Gold Owl in the manga, where we got inklings of how it was to be a wizard centuries ago, where they were discriminated against, feared by those who could not essentially wield magic, and thus ended up being ostracized by society and even hunted through witch hunts. But it wasn't until the creation of Magia Dragon, the first wizard guild, where not only we had wizards coming together, but we ended up getting an actual reasoning why the wizard guild system ended up coming into practice in the first place, which is groups of wizards coming together, working together, and doing quests and jobs for those that had no magic, or those that could not really utilize magic, or for just non-wizards as a whole, and even help for exploration. That is a huge world-building thing that we didn't really get in the main series. The most we got is that there was like some conflict between wizard guilds in the past that Mavis took part in and she helped end, but that's really all we really got, aside from wizard guilds not really being a union or an alliance or whatever it was in the past around the time Mavis was, and things were a bit more chaotic. The point is, this was one thing we didn't really need to get fully explored in the degree it was. But we got to this point because Mashima created the Dragon Gods and used that as a tool to expand the world of the story. We got the first Wizard Guild and the origins and reasoning why the Wizard Guild system ended up coming into place. And because of the Dragon Gods, we also got to learn more about, well, the dragons. And for one, that there were actual dragons that were still alive in the world that Agnologia didn't massacre, and we got to see how these specific dragons affected this other continent. Giltina basically has dragons built into its DNA, whether it be the fact that Diablos is a literal dragon-eating guild that hunts dragons to gain their power, to the fact that there are 5 dragon gods, well, there used to be 6, but 5 dragon gods that were just dragons that grew stronger over time to the point where they could potentially rival Agnologia, and they actually have literal societies built around to worship them and their almighty power. We got to explore more of these different cities. Alderaan literally has a bunch of cities built on top of its main body. And the people have gotten so used to just the regular movements of Alderaan that it's literally a daily routine for the citizens. Ignia, at the point of the recent chapter, literally has a whole castle and presumably like an entire army or cultish following towards him. Selene had her own following and even expanded the Fairy Tail multiverse essentially by giving us Elentier, and we even revisited Edalus in the exact same arc. Merkphobia had a literal city built and they all worshipped him as a god. The existence of the Dragon Gods, like I stated, literally shaped the current continent that the Fairy Tail Guild are exploring in this sequel. And it really does flesh out the world of Fairy Tail beyond the Ishgar and the Alvarez Empire, which even Alvarez we didn't get to explore too much, but we get to explore an entirely different continent with different cities, towns, and people with their own cultures, and they were all influenced by these dragons. And the dragons themselves, primarily the gods, essentially have their own personalities, viewpoints, and ways of viewing the world, and even themselves. with the most interesting ones being Mercphobia, Selene, and Ignia, and to an extent Dogramag as well, since he falls more into the same category as Ignia. Viernus was a disappointment, and Alderaan, he's kind of in the middle. He's just more of an intimidating force with an almighty sense of power that views others like insects. Which, you gotta have a villain like that who fully buys into their god complex so much that he sees everything else as ants, and to an extent, he's just that huge that everything is literally an ant at the bare minimum. But we explore the thought processes of a lot of these dragon gods, save for Viernus. He was, again, massive disappointment. I'm sorry, I'm very salty about Viernus right now. But the other dragon gods, we did get to explore and see their personalities flourish, their viewpoints on things, what makes them who they are. And by extension, we got to see more of the world and more of the lore of this universe was fleshed out. It was because of Dogramag and the feud between Ignia and Selene in search for Athena that led us to Athena and led us to see that there is a guild of alchemy users and how alchemy is a whole big thing in Giltina, and they have their own guild system as well. Now it's essentially a different power system and utilization than magic in the fairy tale universe. Now I do think alchemy could have been expanded on a bit more, and we might get to see more of that. But the point is, because of the dragon god's existence, we led to more of the alchemy being explored in advance, thanks to Duke and later Levsier coming in to help him, and they created Athena, a dragon-slaying machine, which after some time would end up escaping and even have an entire cult based around it as it went to go on a journey of self-discovery. And that is something that is an extra layer onto a character we met for that one arc, and it explores more of the fairy tale universe and how people can technically misconstrue certain pieces of information or basically dilute how things are perceived. I mean, that happened with Xerath, and we got it with Athena, with her being the white mage and literally having a cult centered around her and not understanding who she was and just saw her power and just like, we worship this person now. Same thing happened with Xerath to an absurd degree as we saw in the mainline series. I didn't say much of it, but we also got the Diablos. We explored more of that. There were other dragon slayers. We got to see how other people can gain these abilities, and even more of an explanation on like second generation dragon slayers, as is the fact that the lacrima that were implanted in their chests are essentially purified and processed dragon hearts, which adds more into Loxus, Sting, Rogue, Cobra, into how their powers were given, as chances are a dragon had to have been slain and had their heart taken and processed to become a lacrima that would later be placed into their chest. It just feels like once Mashima came up with the idea of the dragon gods, he felt like exploring more of the world and explaining some other things in the series that he didn't have time most likely to fully flesh out in Fairy Tail. And there is still a lot of things that we could explore in this world that 100 Years Quest could still most likely explore. Right now in the story, spoilers alert, we are heading towards Ignia at the point of me recording this video. And for all we know, the story isn't even confirmed to be entering its final arc yet, so there could still be more to explore in this world as we're heading over to an entirely different section of this massive continent. So we could see more lore about the dragons and how this world has expanded over the years. And maybe it could tie back into things like with Acnologia, with the war of the dragons and the humans 400 years ago. There is a lot that can still be explored in 100 Years Quest, and the Dragon Gods were literally a great example of how to add a new element and use that to basically flesh out everything in between, while still having a tie back to the main story in some way or another, as well as progress the plot of the sequel in a relatively satisfying manner. All around, the Dragon Gods are just very cool antagonists with really amazing designs and abilities that we got to actually see in action and how they challenge the main heroes. And in the end, just fully make things feel more fleshed out and alive than they originally were. This could have just been, oh, here are just these 5 powerful enemies, go one after the other. But in each arc and in between each arc, we get to explore more of the world. Heck, we literally get to learn something as seemingly irrelevant as Sabretooth having a library that has all the information off 3 freaking continents, and that ends up helping in the later findings for the future arc. And that might still come into play. That is information that we didn't really need, but it was much appreciated. It adds more importance to, heck, a guild that we just thought was just a bunch of entitled assholes and at first, and then just became honestly pretty chill people. But you get what I mean, and I'm yapping at this point. All I gotta say is, the Dragon Gods were a really cool idea that fleshed out the world of Fairy Tail, gave us some really cool and well-designed antagonists, with a lot of them being incredibly interesting with cool abilities and personalities and viewpoints on their lives and just the world as a whole. We get to explore an entirely new section of the world of Fairy Tail, and certain aspects of the past get to be more fleshed out and given us more answers. In the end, we could have just gotten just regular antagonists, but Mashima uses to fully flesh out the world that he initially set forth, and it was not a wasted opportunity, as I think a lot of us, even with our own misgivings on how things have went with certain sections of the story, are relatively satisfied with how well it has expanded and explained some things from the original story, and makes us want to see more of this world. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below on your thoughts on the Dragon Gods, and if they were in fact a good idea to implement into the story, and if you agree with my points or not. And if there's something that I missed in this video, let me know in the comments section down below on what you think the Dragon Gods' existence have done well for the story of Fairy Tail. And once more, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and you want to see more. Now with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.